Welcome back to The Mentors. This is Vadim and Sergey, and you're listening to the 5-minute pick-me-up where we tell you stories to motivate you for the week to come. We were thinking today about an article that we wrote a few months ago on Harvard Business Review, and it was called How to Encourage Entrepreneurial Thinking on Your Team. And one of the points that we made in that article is that you should encourage letting your employees pursue other interests outside of work. You should encourage those hobbies because those will help bring in fresh, interesting ideas into the workplace. When I was on a flight a couple of days ago, I started reading the book Originals by Adam Grant. And in it, he talks about basically how people come up with fresh new ideas. And one of the interesting stories that he talked about in the book is about a study of Nobel Prize winners over the course of more than 100 years, starting in 1905. And when compared to regular scientists that actually had very similar experience, but just general scientists that didn't win the Nobel Prize, these prize winners were 2 times more likely to be musicians, 7 times more likely to be artists and painters, and up to 22 more times likely to be actors, dancers, and magicians. And what this study essentially told Adam Grant and anybody else that looked at that data is that people that let themselves pursue their outside hobbies outside of their work were able to expand their horizons more than people that didn't do creative pursuits because they were able to look at information in different ways.
And I was recently listening to a podcast with Patrick Collison on the show, and it was an economics-oriented podcast. They were talking about innovation and innovators. And he also made a somewhat similar observation about successful scientists and scientists in the past that were more likely to make new discoveries. And typically those were people that tended to be a little bit wackier. They were more outside thinkers that maybe didn't follow the exact path that a typical scientist would take, but had other interests, had other jobs, had other vocations. They were more likely to think outside the box and also see opportunities where other people didn't.
Another example is Galileo. He was the first person to realize that the moon actually had mountains before they even had the technology to be able to see that. And the reason why is because he saw that the shadows on the moon represented something that was very familiar to him as a painter. He liked to paint, he understood how to manipulate color to create shadows, and he recognized those similar types of shadows he used to paint mountains on the moon, and therefore he saw this way before any other scientist in his time.
As some of our listeners probably know, Sergey and I have also some creative pursuits that we enjoy, like music, right? And so if you listen to the 5-minute pick-me-up, we typically release our parody music videos or /songs, I should say, via audio here on the podcast.
We've had two.
And even activities like that help us think differently, right? When you put together a video, you have to think about every scene and every shot, and then that helps you think through how a story is packaged and delivered to somebody from the outside, and how to deliver a particular message through that story as well, because we like our parody videos to be thematic too, whether they're about sales or being more of an effective presenter or whatever it is.
And when we're trying to write something funny, right, like in a music video, for example, for one of these parody songs, we have to be open-minded to try to think of funny ideas. Like, they have to be sometimes seemingly stupid ideas, but then they turn out funny when you record them. And practicing being open to something being different out of the norm actually helps you identify those interesting opportunities when you're trying to think of original ideas, whether for businesses or something else.
Because sometimes, for example, how we apply this immediately is, let's say we have to give a talk in front of a large group of people. Well, one of the most important things when you're giving a talk is to package it in a compelling story, again, like we did before here with the songs, but also to stand out and be different. And how do you make sure that people actually remember you? And activities like this, other creative pursuits, help us get better and better at these things too. And hopefully they apply to other business areas in our lives as well.
I mean, just take a look at people like Conan O'Brien, who also plays guitar on the side. Sometimes he brings that into his act. Jim Carrey is somebody who recently started painting and sketching and drawing. There's other folks. A lot of entrepreneurs do stand-up comedy. It's not uncommon to have creative pursuits that let you have a different type of outlet so that you can have better ideas in your business life.
So our general message for you this week is don't feel guilty about acting on your other creative interests and actually diving deep into them and spending real time on them, because those are the very things that can actually create new opportunities for you, at the very least let you see new opportunities in other areas of your life. So it's important to invest your time in these other things as well, these extracurriculars, if you will.
That's it for the 5-minute pick-me-up for this week, and we'll see you on Wednesday.